Tyler said that he is in a spot where he has like zero Wi-Fi connection, so he might not be able to join.
Okay, well, hopefully he'll hop on. I'm watching so I get this little list of who I need to admit because you are a part of an exclusive group and only certain people are allowed to join our Zoom meeting. So I have to admit them as they show up, but hopefully we'll catch him. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started with prayer and then we'll move on from there. Father God, thank you so much for bringing us all here together. And we just thank you for your faithfulness. As I look forward to the conversation that we're going to have today about friendships and the effect of money on friendships, Lord, I just ask that you would help us to have discernment and that we would walk forward confidently, knowing that regardless of anything else that's going on, you offer your friendship, your security, your comfort, and your salvation to each one of us. Lord, we thank you for that. It is the greatest gift ever. And we love you. Please be with us in our conversation. Help us to be wise and kind to one another. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, my dears. So, thumbs up? Down? How are we doing today? Yay.
Can anyone hear us or see us?
I can see a
I can hear you.
Sofa,
And
we heard you.
We heard you.
So you're quasi in, Tyler. All right. I appreciate you guys. Chase, I'm glad to see you. I was scared that you had gone back to Missouri and I'd never see your face on class again. But look, you're there. Happy day. All right. So talk to me.
Dogs bark now.
Oh, well, my dog might bark too. We still have stuff going on in our backyard. And the dog is extremely angry that there are strangers back there. So we shall just wait and see. Let's talk about friends and relationships. And I know that the reading was pretty short unless you went and researched the different Bible verses, but let's talk about that. What did you take away from this concept? Lydia.
true friends don't care if you're rich or poor or whatever.
Okay, let's define those words. What's rich? Mia.
Has a lot of, not necessarily just money, but you can be rich in a lot of things.
Okay. What's the opposite of that? What's poor? Lydia.
For both of those, it really depends on who's defining it and how you define rich or poor.
Okay. Let's define it as the average United States of America citizen. From that perspective, what's our definition of rich and what's our definition of poor?
For rich, like having a lot of money and things.
Okay. Rin?
And for poor, having less money and stuff.
Okay. Samuel?
I'm less than dirt.
Samuel, you had your hand up. Did you have something to add to those definitions?
No.
Okay. All right. How do you think that this article would define rich and poor? What perspective was the author of this article writing from? Samuel?
They seem to have a more or less Christian-like. Of course, it could be any one of the Catholics or Mormons, but you get the point. So it seemed that they would probably go with not just money. You can be rich in grace that was given to you and a lot of other things as well.
Okay. So when we talk about friends and relationships, have you noticed a difference in your own experience and how money makes things easier or harder when you're with your friends? Mia?
Well, sometimes if as like a teenager, if you have allowance or a job, then sometimes you can go out with your friends more. You can go to the movie theater, you can go to dinner or whatever with them. That if you didn't have a job or you didn't have allowance or just money in general, you wouldn't be able to go hang out with them necessarily sometimes.
Mhm. All right, Taylor.
I have a total of probably 3 truly close friends, and so it's hard for me to say.
Okay. Lydia.
I've never really noticed a difference. The only thing that technically, like, it's like, my friends don't really care if I have money or whatever at all.
Okay. Tyler.
I don't think money makes a big difference in my relationships because, well, I live on a Christian, well, I don't live on it, but like where Samuel lives, I go over there all the time and we hang out. And honestly, I enjoy doing stuff over there way more than going to like the movies, going out to eat or something like that.
Mhm.
And I think all my friends enjoy it more as well.
And I have no money, so
Okay. Let me ask you another question. First of all, I want to make sure I put a little note about this into my email, but I want you to realize that our financial standings every week are a result of a game. I know you know this, but I need to articulate this on purpose. One of the reasons that I don't want you to take any of that too personally is because A, it's a game, and B, you don't have nearly the control over the decisions in this game that you would have over real life, right? So I'm going to pick on Taylor because Taylor is bringing up the rear with the lowest net income that we have in our class. Does that mean that Taylor is doomed for the rest of her life? No, not at all. Does this mean that Elijah is clearly going to be a millionaire and he has got all his ducks in a row and everything is going to be perfect all the time? He can hope so, but no. And there are certain decisions within this game that you have zero control over, plus the fact that the dollar amounts are kind of crazy, right? We know that you're probably not going to get a fine of $50,000 for going to the zoo. I mean, it's just, this is a game. And so I want to emphasize that especially, and also make sure that none of you are like holding on to any angst in your heart about this, because you really shouldn't be. One other thing that I think is really interesting though, within the context of the game, is that 2 weeks ago, somebody said, I can't remember exactly what happened, but they said, don't give Ryan any money for Riches for Ryan because it will be a waste of time. What's going on with that mentality?
Unless we can give him like however much he is in debt right now, he is never going to be able to escape debt.
which is true.
So it's just us wasting our money on a dead cause. It's like putting your money into a stock that's dead.
So
Okay.
it's like a
Extra.
never-ending pit. It's extra
Yeah.
waste on me then.
Okay, Mia, you've
It's
got
a
your
very
hand
good
up.
waste for you.
Well, if you're gonna look at it like biblically, it's saying that he is too far gone and that no one can save him. That it's not even worth it. So you should just don't even care anymore because nothing you do is gonna help. Which
We should
is
never
not,
even care for
That's sad.
him. Oh,
All right, I've got to figure out what Samuel was saying. Ah, so you feel like there's only so much you can do, Samuel. Okay. Do you want to expand on that, or are you going to type it for us? You have the intent look of someone typing.
he's typing.
Okay, Lydia agrees too. Okay,
No, she agrees.
agrees. All right. I understand where that's coming from. And and you mentioned this last week. I know that the word was floated around. In our culture, do we have a remedy for someone who is so far gone in debt that they can't get out? What is it?
The lottery.
No.
Bankruptcy.
Yeah, filing for
Bankruptcy.
bankruptcy,
Do you know what bankruptcy is?
giving more money for people to pay off.
Okay, that's one definition. Lydia, what?
I have a solution. If they really just have too much debt, then all they have to do is make a fake identity and start over.
Oh, clearly, that wouldn't be illegal at all. So in our culture, bankruptcy means that you give up and you lose everything of value that you have. I think that there are some stipulations about your living space, but someone comes and sells all of your stuff. And I believe that it's a 7-year gap where you don't get credit. You're just stuck. You start fresh at 0, but there is a consequence of 7 years. Now, from a biblical perspective, if you make a commitment to purchase something and spend money on it, I think there's an integrity issue to pay that money back one way or the other. It's an interesting conversation right now because I don't know if you're paying attention to it, but college scholarships, or not scholarships, college debt is a huge topic of conversation politically right now, with people saying, I shouldn't have to pay that money back. And there's conversations about it. Some of you that are in debt and are seeing that 1.5% interest where you've been paying on it and it's just continuing to accumulate, that is a legitimate thing that's happening for some people with their college loans. So it is extravagant in our class, but the concept is true to real life. And I really, really, if I can caution you on one thing as you're looking forward, be super careful about any loans that you take out in the next, like you're looking at the next 2 to 5 years, each one of you. Be really careful about the impact it's going to take on the rest of your life. So I'm going to go with Rin and then I'll go to Lydia.
So what fascinates me about the whole 7 years thing is that biblically, that's exactly what would happen, is every 7 years, everybody's debt would be forgiven, at least in Israel. So it's interesting. I'd also like to add that it's not entirely hopeless if you go bankrupt, because Dave Ramsey went bankrupt and he's clearly fine.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And it was a huge spawn, like it spurred him on to what he does now. Lydia?
So one simple solution to that is just to not bother with credit and just pay stuff. Also, you could add something to the game for going bankrupt. So if you're like way into debt, like the people are, what you could do is just have them go bankrupt, and then for the next 7 years you don't get anything, and that would solve a whole bunch of problems.
It might solve problems, but it would also add its own layers. What I'm going to do is listen to other classes that go through this fall and combine your feedback and their feedback and see if we need to make any twitches. Like one of the things that will definitely happen different for other classes is instead of 1.5% or 50% interest every year, it's going to go to 20% interest every year, which is actually comparable to what a credit card is right now. So it will just adjust a little bit. And I think it will at least be a slower decrease. So I thought, Tyler, did you have your hand up? Okay.
I was gonna say the whole credit situation, but I wouldn't ever suggest just going, it's debit card. Because if you ever want to like buy a house or get a loan from someone, like I even know some of my friends, not like my friends, I know like some people, they base how trustworthy you are based off of your credit score, which I found was really weird, but it kind of makes sense. Because like if you have a high credit score, that means that you're trusted, like the bank trusts you with their money, and everything, which means that they can trust you with other stuff. So a simple rule that I've been advised to follow: never spend 75% of what's in your bank account, unless you're buying like a house, car, or something big like that.
Mhm.
And if you're doing that, make sure you have enough funds for like 3 plans ahead, 3 payment plans.
Well, and I think what you're touching on, Tyler, is that debate that we read about a couple chapters ago of credit scores and whether they're useful or not. There's certainly, the world is clocked around things like you can't even rent an apartment in some places if your credit score is below a certain number. So it matters in our world, but you can live without credit. And so you've got to really sort that one out yourself. Okay, going back towards friends and using our game as an example. Last week, Ryan got $100,000 as his action card, and he just gave it away to Elijah. So what's going on with that? What did you guys think about that?
There was no point for him to have it, so he just gave it away.
All right, Kenna?
He's trying to get the top person as high as he possibly can. He's like, there's no hope for me, so you know what? I'm gonna help the first place person.
Okay, Mia?
Personally, I thought that if he wasn't going to use it and it wasn't going to help him, that there were other people that it could have helped. No offense, Elijah, but you're in a pretty good financial situation currently, and that there are some other people, not necessarily myself, but other people that are just kind of hanging on there, that it could have probably benefited more.
Okay, Samuel, talk to me about how it made you sad.
We'll see, with all this entire thing, yeah, it's a game, but often things that are just games, yeah, it's easy for people to like know that, but it's another thing for them to actually take that into account and to actually be to have actions accordingly. So it was not something that I loved to see, that he had just given up so completely that he just give it away without a second thought.
Mm-hmm. All right, Lydia, your hand's up.
I think what would be a great idea is for like someone to just give away all the money that they don't have to other players and make sure they have lots of money. And then what you can just simply do is then that person goes bankrupt, and then they don't have to worry about all their money for 7 years or whatever that is. And then other people give back their money with interest, and it makes everyone be more rich. It's a great idea.
So actually what you're describing is something that has been a part of a lot of cultures, specifically in Africa. It's a loan group, and centuries ago, like 1200, they would come together and everyone would put a certain amount of money in every single week. And then they would take turns when they hit a little bit of the pot, giving the large lump sum to each member in rotation. And there's have any of you ever seen the movie Dream Horse? It came out last year. It's a really cute movie. It's about a town in, I think, Ireland that pooled together for a racehorse, kind of using that same idea. And it's a historic, you're talking about something that historically is a thing. Rin, did you have your hand up?
I kind of followed Samuel's train of thought, where I thought it was a little sad because it's kind of like giving up, like if you had a life preserver and it was like connected together in little pieces, you just kind of gave away part of your life preserver.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, I have no issue with giving, but I just thought it was a little sad.
Okay, Ryan?
You said this.
Even in debt, can I still give away money? But I just go even more in debt.
You can, like, the rules of the game are that you can do compassion. We set that up, so that's something that you can do.
Ryan, give me
But what I
everything
would
I paid.
encourage you to do is think about why you're choosing that, and
I
have
don't
a
encourage
good
you.
reason and rhyme to it.
Ryan, you have to give me money because I gave you like 200K.
No, I don't have
Well,
to.
okay, so that's actually an interesting question. Tyler has floated you multiple loans as your friend, And then when you had the opportunity to give that back or reimburse it in some way, you chose not to.
Hey, I have two. Just saying.
I gave
Yeah,
more.
several people have.
Okay, I refund Mrs. Ferraro.
No, I'm just asking, like, it's really fascinating to me what's going on. And since we're talking about friends and money relationships, this is a pretty safe, like, you can ask these questions and say, what's happening? Lydia, your hand has been up.
What I sort of more meant was what Ryan just said, that like someone could just, who's already in debt, give away money that they don't have to other people, and then they go bankrupt, and then they get to start over. And the people that they gave money to can give back that money, and then they're not bankrupt and they have more money.
I suppose that's an option. Personally, my study of the Bible has made it so that bankruptcy is not something that I think is godly. But I mean, everybody has to make those changes and have those convictions of themselves. Nobody else is going to get to answer to God for your decisions. It's you and him. But I will say that would be an encouragement for me. We don't make, as a family, my husband and I have decided that we won't make any major life decision without talking to 3 very trusted, credible sources that come from the perspective of someone that we want to be like, that is wise. And so that would be something that I would say, see if you can find your 3 trusted sources to tell you what to do or give you their impact on it. Impact? That's the wrong word. Opinion. That's the word I wanted, the opinion. I would like to talk to you also about friends and loaning money to one another. Tyler.
I have very strict rules on loaning money to my friends.
He doesn't.
The way I do it, if it's ever a friend like on New Tribes, I'll usually just give them money. I trust pretty much all of my friends. But I usually want to get like kind of like some ground rules. Like I don't care when I get the money back, like unless it's like a year or something. If it's like $50, yeah, I'll give it to them. I don't really care when I get it back, but I just want it back. And I understand that most of them don't really have jobs and they can't really get as much money in how I can get it. Well, Daniel can get money, but I can't. That's like he can't. So if I am going to give money to someone, I'll usually say like, okay, when will you be able to give it back? How will you be able to get it back? And how can I know that you're going to get it back? And something like that. And if they give me, I usually won't wait any longer than like half a year or something, depends on who it is. And then, yeah, it also depends on the amount of money. So, yeah.
Okay, Rin.
See, I also kind of have a specific view on loaning out money, and I generally won't lend large sums at all. But if I ever do loan out money, and it's generally in smaller sums, I am working under the assumption that while it would be ideal that I get said money back, if I don't, I have to be okay with that before I have loaned said money. Because I know that people are people and stuff happens. So ideally I get the money back, and I say that, and I would like the money back, but if I don't, I am aware that I might not get it back, which is why I don't loan large sums.
Right. I would like to pick on Mia and Maggie really quickly. Is Maggie still there? She just got up and left the screen. Would you talk about, you both borrowed money from your grandma for your 4-H projects, or you didn't both? You made different choices about that. Would you tell them about your thought processes and how that all worked out?
So when I was getting my first market goat, I added up how much I thought all of the expenses would be for the feed, emergency vet visit, everything that happened. And I realized that I didn't have all that money out of pocket, but that hopefully if everything went well, my goat would sell for more than that sum of money. So I would have that to be able to pay back. And in our family, you don't get anything easily, really. And so I didn't just go up to her and ask her for $500. I wrote an entire loan out, like a loan. I don't know what it would be, but
Application.
I wrote a loan application and I gave it to her, and she was my grandma, and she said, yes, that I'll help you with it. And everything did end up going well, and my goat sold for more than I had expected it to. And I was able to pay that back, 6 months later, and I paid the whole thing off. And then when I came back to her, I earned trust for paying back the loan as quickly as I could. And then when I came back to her with another endeavor and I said, this is something else, here's my plan of how I'm going to make that money back and when hopefully I'm going to pay you back. And she gave me the money again, knowing that you're trusting me more, because last time I paid her back totally.
So I didn't use a loan. Like I just was scared that I would forget and wouldn't ever pay it back, which I know that would be unacceptable. So I decided just to earn the money myself and earn the money for it by myself. And I did earn more than I paid for the animal, which was very nice. But even like nowadays with the turkeys, I have a list of like food, because sometimes you and daddy pay for the food. So I have a list of what I have to pay you back for, but I already have paid most of it off already.
So which one of you think has carried more stress about money? It's interesting. All right, Lydia, you've had your hand up a lot.
Just a second. I think I forgot what I was going to talk about.
Oh, Samuel has written a message. Absolutely.
I remembered.
Samuel, would you give me money if I asked for it?
All right, Lydia, go ahead.
So I've only loaned out money really mostly to my parents, because they'll sometimes not have cash and I carry cash because I don't have a credit card and stuff. So I've loaned money, and the problem with that is that I never write it down, and then I get all the money mixed up because they don't pay me back, because we always, like, I forget about it and they forget about it, and then they have to go to the bank and get money, and so it's complicated. But I will sometimes forget, and then that can be sort of annoying, because then I can't remember if that's the right amount of money or if I'm getting the worst end or the better end. So.
Should cut that off.
Sorry. And so, but the only other time I've loaned money to someone who wasn't my parents, I think the only time I can remember is to someone who I didn't really know well, and it was $1, and I hated trying to ask to get it back.
It was awkward, right? All right, Mia.
I think like what Rin said, when you're loaning a couple dollars or whatever, like $10 here, $10 there, you just kind of have to expect that they're not going to pay you back, and that you're just being kind and nice to them, and that's just kind of how it's going to be. You do have to set rules, like Samuel said, because sometimes if it's a bigger amount of money, you definitely, like, that needs to come back. But if you're at the grocery store and they need a drink and it's $3, then you just kind of get it for them and expect that you're just being nice, and they'll probably remember it. And then if you're in that same situation, maybe they'll do the same for you. And so it kind of comes back. And also, like what Lydia said, I don't know if this is just me, but when I've done similar things, when you guys didn't have cash or whatever, and I'm giving you cash, and then we forgot, usually I just leave it be, because you buy a lot of stuff for us. And so $10 to buy something at the grocery store, it's just like a little tiny bit of payback. So you can just keep that.
I also keep all the cash that's found in the laundry, let's be honest. So this is just how it goes in our house. If I'm doing your laundry, it's my tip.
This is why I don't keep cash in any of my stuff. I always keep it in the back of my phone.
I've
because I
lost
keep the
20
backup.
bucks to that.
I have a question.
I don't know who's talking.
This is Lydia.
Oh, hi, Lydia.
Sorry, I'm at somewhere where I was volunteering and for a sort of like VBS thing, and so we're
Okay.
still here. But so I haven't really collected any coins, but I did happen to find $11 in our front yard. So does that count as the money?
Yes, it's found money. Good job.
Okay, because I'm not gonna keep it necessarily. We're gonna see if anyone asks for it back, because there's some boys in our neighborhood that play on our lawn when we don't necessarily want them to. So if they ask for it back, then
Okay.
I'll ask for the amount that they lost, and then if they don't say the right amount, then oopsie.
All right. Ren and then Chase. It's gone.
It's gone.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, I remember. That's what I have a similar story where I'll loan out money. And it's mostly because my parents give me this weird look every time we go to the bank and they pay me for whatever work I've done because I list out however much money I want in specific bill amounts. Like I want $20 in fives and I want $100 in 50s and whatever. But because of this, I always have smaller bills and change. So when stuff happens and they need smaller bills and change, they borrow it from me.
Mhm.
And I keep an accounts ledger to get said money back. And I have the date that it was like borrowed and the date that it was returned. And I try to remember to write it down. If not, I text myself the number, like if I'm out and I can't get to my ledger, which it keeps most of the money. And then the rest of it I accept as like a dead. That's their extra gift money for whatever they end up spending on me. It's like this added stuff, but it was pretty funny because I forgot about a large sum of money one time. And so then I was like, I have to write this stuff down.
Yep.
See, that's the fun part, right? Because you get birthday money, right? And then you ask your parents to like hold on to it for you so you can get back to it after the party because you don't want to lose it. And then you never see it again. It's just the mysterious case of the missing birthday money.
Chase.
I just don't loan anybody money. And like if I'm at a store with my friends or something and we're hungry or something, I'll pay for their food just because I have the money and they don't. But I never give them money and expect for it back. I keep my money, I'll spend it on them, but I won't give it to them.
So I think, okay, I'm not going to give you my opinion. Let me instead ask you guys, what do you think makes you a better friend? Someone who has clearly articulated what their expectations are, or someone who just leaves it for you to guess? Samuel.
Personally, I would say the person who has things planned out because it's the best way to go when you're dealing with money, specifically like even people on the side of the road. We saw some people who were traveling or something like that. And so they had their sign, right, and their family, and they needed money for gas. Well, they were at Walmart one day and then mysteriously they drove the however many miles to Target the next day and did the same thing. So you got to be careful there. So like my parents had some friends or have either way, who would not give money to anybody. They would specifically give them a McDonald's coupon or something like that for a free burger. If people were like, we need money for food. Okay, here's a McDonald's coupon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I think it sounds like you guys are making some wise choices about how you're going to communicate with one another and with other friends. Mia?
Well, I was just gonna say about what Samuel said. I can't remember who told me this, but someone said that if there's someone with gas, like grab the gas tank and say, I'll go fill up the gas for you. Like tell me where, I'll fill up the gas tank for you, instead of just giving them money, because a lot of times they'll be like, no. Like they don't need gas, they want the money. And so if you actually give them like exactly what they're asking for, you actually give them food, sometimes they won't want it, but that's how you can keep them, you can still help them and support them without supporting typically the bad habits that money is going to help.
Absolutely. All right, good discussion, guys. We have been talking about this for a while, and so I'd like to move on to the action reports. And
this is Lydia. Can I say something?
sure.
So one thing that I have done sometimes is I'll have cards from when I was a lot younger, and I will randomly find money in them. And one time recently, maybe a month ago or 2 months or something, I found a $50 bill in an old card. So I'll often find like really old money, or not really old, but like
Money you'd forgotten about.
yeah, because I put it in a card and I just put it away somewhere and just never remembered it because I was so young when I got
That's
it.
always fun to find. So,
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to our action card reports. And once again, remember that you're educating everyone else, but we're trying to do it with our top points. Okay. Maggie, kick it off.
Okay, so I decided to look at a 20,000 gallon fish pond instead of a little aquarium because I was like, I might as well just make it big. So the fish tank in Arizona, it's hard to get like water. So it would cost about $40,840 a year to clean and all of the water and just the whole maintenance. And I researched 3 different fish. One was a koi fish, and to keep a multiple koi fishes is around $500 to $1,500 just to keep them in the pond because they're bigger and they have to have more food than like a beta fish in a little tank would. I also looked at the catfish because I was like, oh, you can eat the catfish. So, I mean, that's something that you could do. And it's $60 per 100 fish, which was like, wow. And stop. If you wanted to cut off a little bit of the expenses for like cleaning, there's these little fish called mosquito fish that eat the algae off of the bottom, and so it's a little bit less money for when you have to clean it.
All right. Thank you. Chase.
Let me turn off my fan. Hang on. All right, I did the driving like from cars to planes. And pretty much what I got is it's if you have a good gas per mile car or gallons per mile, it's more likely right now because of how expensive everything is, it's gonna be more cheap to drive than it is to fly, because just for a round trip ticket right now it's $330 per person. But it also depends on how many people you're transporting, because if it's just you, maybe it's worth the $330, but it adds up once you get more people. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Ryan.
Okay, so I mowed a lawn. So starting a lawn mowing business, you'll need 2 to 3 things: a lawnmower, weed eater, and maybe a leaf blower, which will run you about $100 to $200 for the lawnmower $150 for a weed eater. And I couldn't really find the cost for a leaf blower for some reason. And then I had to research what the best places were to mow people's lawns. And I found California was great. It pays oh yeah, I couldn't find it, but the weather is roughly 47 to 74. That's average. But the cost of living in California is much higher. So yeah, that's all I found.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Elijah.
Yeah, that's a mute. Okay. So my report is about vermiculture and the diet of worms. Okay. So vermiculture is worm farming. That's the definition of the word, basically. Things it can be helpful with are reducing the amount of trash that you produce, and also it can, of course, make good fertilizer for your garden. Some of the sources I found were claiming that most people make about 4.5 to 5 pounds of trash every day, but I think it's thrown off by yard trimmings and that kind of thing. So I don't actually know how much it is, but still, supposedly the worms can eat a good deal of it because it's actually, a lot of it is food trash. So yes, I have a lot of details about that, but that's the main point.
Okay. It's very helpful to have worms around. I like that. Thank you. All right, Miss Mia.
So I got the community garden, and that was kind of fun because one of my 4-H projects is working on a community garden. So for ours, it's a 4-H, a youth 4-H group that tends plants, takes care of this garden, and the whole community is allowed to eat out of it. It's right next to a bus stop, so there's a lot of homeless people or people that are in a rough situation. It's also in one of the poor neighborhoods in Flagstaff. And so we get a lot of the public just coming, and if there's a plant available, they will come and pick it and eat it. We've even found some people have left plants for us to find. We recently found some potatoes. So it's a thing that you can kind of come or leave if you choose to do that. So the whole community is allowed to come and get food if they are in need of something. And us 4-Hers, we are allowed to take the food home. If we plant it, we get to take our crop and have fun with that. The staff that we're working with and the Master Gardeners group is also allowed to come and take the food, since they help us a lot with the project. And yeah, that's pretty much the main points with that.
All right. Thank you. Rin.
Okay, so television is a major consumer business in the United States. Just from networks alone, the average network makes approximately $41.6 billion per year, which I thought was an interesting number to keep in mind.
Billion?
Hang on. I'm gonna try and silence the dog real quick.
Did you say billion or million, Rin?
Billion. Yeah. So the average amount of television, so starting from like a 15-year period when television came out, in like the early like 1950s-ish, like when it started to become popular, it was approximately 4 hours and 30 minutes spent on the television total per day. As it continues up to present day, there's a 32% increase per roughly each decade that you see go by. So each year there's over an hour of an increase. And at this point in the 21st century, there's a rough 8 to 9 hours a day of television watching for people. And it depends on the age group. So like 11 and 12-year-olds, like that whole kids under 12, pretty much, the whole section, it's like 24 hours a week amount of television that they watch.
It's like a part-time job.
Yeah, it is a part-time job, exactly. The next one we have is teens, which theirs is less. It's 20 hours a week. That's including like social media and stuff, but that's an average, by the way. And that is only because they tend to get jobs and are no longer allowed to spend quite as much time online. The next thing we have is the 18 to 22. And so as soon as after the teen years, it continues to rise again. So we hit 22 hours a week, then it goes to 27, and then it goes to 33, and it keeps going up. And by the time you hit 65, for the average American, it's roughly 9 to 10 hours a day was the average. So it's like, 50 hours a week. I thought that was crazy.
All right, Mia. Oh, Rin, are you done? I'm sorry. Mia had a question. I thought you were finished.
My computer in real quick because it's going to die. And then one other thing that I found was particularly interesting was that the average amount that doctors suggest of time you spend on the screen is 3.5 hours. There's, just a little bit of a difference between how much we actually spend on screens and the suggested amount. Some effects of screens are, well, it worsens your eyesight because you're focusing on stuff. In young children, it can cause like specific disorders having to do with attention because we're kind of in a push button world. So everything's now, and waiting for things is not the norm anymore. It also causes sleep issues with the amount of the lights in the screen actually reduces certain hormones in your body that allow you to sleep. And so I thought those were 3 interesting things that TV affects. That's it.
All right. Mia, did you still have a question?
I was just going to say that it's interesting that people that are, I can't remember the age group, but you said 60 and something, have a very high average amount of time on their thing. And I just find that interesting because that's a generation that didn't grow up with the internet or really a good TV. And so I think it's just interesting that they have a very high average, and it's even comparable or more so than the children, which are growing up with this stuff. And I just think it's interesting because a lot of, people that are 60 and up, sometimes even younger, are like, oh no, I don't know how to use this stuff. And yet they have a very high average. Now, obviously that depends, but a very high average of use that's, again, comparable to people that are growing up with this every single day.
Interesting.
I thought it was fascinating too. And I think part of it is because you see in like students and stuff, there was a study that I read where like adding 1 hour of study increased grade point averages by like 1.56. Anyway, in colleges at least. And that was taking away from like the 1 hour of computer time people were using. And so I think as people get older, they have less like things that they would like to go out and do. And part of it is because they're getting older and they probably don't feel as good as they used to, and they don't want to do as much. So then they can sit and watch TV. And so that's why I think it's like that. But I was really surprised by that number too. I was like, wow, I didn't realize that.
All right, because we technically have 8 minutes of class left and 6 people to give their presentations before we draw, I'm not going to do any more questions. Taylor, or comments, Taylor?
All right, let's get this going. Pink tax. That's fun. All right, so the definition of pink tax is what I've found. Things that are more geared toward women tend to be higher priced than those for men. It originates from the fact that most of the things that affect this are pink. Pink tax is gender discrimination, or at least it can be. The old ways of men doing the providing and women staying in the kitchen tied into the pink tax's origin story as well. Back in the days, women especially were and are sometimes underpaid just because of their gender, being seen as the weaker gender. The pink it or shrink it strategy is used by marketers by either upping the price or shrinking the product and selling it for the same price as the regular sized. And it's not just for makeup or hygiene items, or it's haircuts, dry cleaning, and things with absolutely no need to be biased based off of gender. And they're all needlessly more expensive. It's mostly small variations from women's hair soap at $6 and men's at $5, but it can be more. According to my research, like on the other side of this, according to my research, it costs about the same to feed both boys and girls. School supplies cost more for a girl annually. Extracurriculars cost about the same for both. Clothes and toiletries cost more for a girl, however. The total is in actuality, girls cost more on average to raise. This can be affected by their personality and interests as well, so it's hard to say. Each child is different, thus results may vary.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. All right, Tyler.
Okay, so mine was why do how many and why do zoo animals escape? Or not zoo animals, why do animals escape? So when I looked it up, what was the average of how many animals escape per year? It was a lot lower than I thought it was. It was somewhere between 5 and 8 per year, at least in the US. And I thought it was going to be close to 100 or something like that. So when we looked up the reasons why, it was because not most, but some of the animals are born into the zoo, so they don't know how to survive out there on their own. And the ones that were brought in from the wild live a lot more of a luxury life in the zoos because they don't have to do anything to get their food, water. They can just sit there and sleep. And then when I researched all of would animals prefer to be out in the wild and such, animals tend so they did a study of which animals escaped the most, and it was orangutans, gorillas, and monkeys. And apparently it was because they're smarter and being able to learn their surroundings a lot more. And it pains me to say it, but they're smarter than humans. So they're able to find ways how to grab on stuff and then escape. And then one of the escapes was from an orangutan, and it was really cool. He was able to find out the shifts of workers and then be able to figure out a way out. And he was able to do it feeding times and stuff like that. And then he was able to escape. But a week later he was caught back, and but that was really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Your comment just reminded me that there was a park ranger talking about bear-proof containers at campgrounds. And he said there is considerable overlap between the smartest bear and the dumbest human. And I just thought that was just hilarious. And your comment reminded me. All right, Miss Kenna.
I got a speeding ticket.
Give it up for Kenna.
Okay. So depending on how fast you were caught going, the ticket can cost more or less if the officer decides to give you one. If you are nice and respectful to the officer and maybe make them laugh, or you're just super chill about the situation, there's a good chance he won't even give you a ticket. If you're not respectful and you're man, this really sucks, and you're just super
angry about the whole situation. They're gonna be like, well, you deserve a ticket because you're a jerk face. In AZ, if you go 1 to 10 miles over the speed limit, it's $130. If it's 11 to 15, it's 180. 16 to 20 miles over, it's 280. And 21 to 25 miles over, it's 380. Don't ever argue with an officer, because even though you hate the situation and you don't think that he is right, the officer is always right. And if you argue, then he will be more than happy to give you the ticket, and it's probably not going to be very nice for your financial situation. Yeah, that's basically what I have.
Thank you. Samuel.
Okay, so I got affordable housing. There's not a whole bunch to say on it. So I'll go with the most. So I went with Missouri since I live in Missouri. So the most expensive city to buy a house in is Wildwood, with an average cost of $598,143. That is actually 32% over the national average cost for homes, which I found quite large. That compared to the 10th most expensive city, there's a drop of $290.5 thousand, which is almost 49% less. And then the least expensive city in Missouri is Richmond. So what can influence why people would want to go there, and a bit of them could influence the cost, is entertainment, theaters, that kind of thing that might attract people, schools and daycare, sports that schools will offer, and then availability of types of stores, jobs, and restaurants. Because restaurants I found surprising, but they actually do play quite a large role. Some people will specifically look for what restaurants are going to be near them. If they enjoy eating out a lot, they'll specifically look for, okay, which restaurants are going to be here, here, and here, right next to where I'm trying to buy housing.
I see. I once said I wouldn't move somewhere that didn't have a Taco Bell, so I can verify that for you. Thank you. All right, last but not least is Lydia.
Okay, how much a zoo membership would cost,
Okay.
or a one-time ticket, and it's not anywhere near $10,000. It's not even very near 1,000. It's not even near 500 or 400. It's sort of 300, but not even. It's just a little over 200, sort of, if you look at certain things. So just give me a second. So, what I'm going to say here is the cost of the individual ticket, and then I can say what the family one is, because there's a difference. But for the individual ticket, say you were just getting one for one person, and I'm doing it at the most basic point, not with the other ones that cost like $1,000 for a membership, which seems really crazy, but I'm doing the very most basic one that is the cheapest. So for children, the usual admission, so the individual season pass is $59. It's actually pretty good price depending on how much you go. So for children, it is usually $19, and that's from 2 to 12. Children under 2 are free, so I'm not even calculating it for them because that's just no. So for children, it's $19 for them to go in one time, so they would have to go 4 times to exceed the price of the season pass. For adults, it's $22, so they would have to go 3 times to exceed the season pass. And for military and for seniors, which is like 62 or 63 and up, it is $20, and they have to go 3 times to exceed the season pass. They would only be exceeding it by like $1 though. So, but still, those season passes $1 cheaper. And then once you go that many times, you've already made back your money, and you're essentially going for free for the rest of the time. So for the family season pass, the most basic one is $129. You can get other ones, and they have certain special things, but for the most basic, it's $129. For my real family, the individual tickets total would be $81, and so my family would have to all of us go twice to exceed the season pass. And for the in-game family, the individual tickets total would be $139. So I would have to go like once to exceed the season pass. So my in-game family would have a much better thing. And for the season pass, that's the most basic. It's just for 2 adults and then any children that live in the house. So you can't just bring adoptive like
Sure.
oh, let's adopt this family's children for a day when you go to the zoo. But you can get guest passes, and you can get other stuff if you pay like $229, and you can get passes for the rides for every time you go, and even more guest passes for them to be free. But it's a good zoo because we go there. We've gone there a lot whenever we have the season pass.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. I think that's everyone for their action card assignments, right? I love it. Okay. Let's find out about next week. I'm going to draw your names again. We're going to start with Rin. Oh, wait, Tyler has a question. Is that a question?
Yes. Is it okay if me and him go because we have stuff to do and we're at VBS? So is it
Wait, let me pull those right now.
okay?
Tyler, growth spurt. Everyone is bigger. Pay $10,000 per a child to the bank. Ren,
I got
that could have been you.
You're welcome, Ren.
All right. And Ryan, hide a secret stash. Collect 10,000 from the bank.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
Give it to Elijah.
Right, Elijah, do you accept that?
How much?
10,000.
Please don't say peasants' money. Yes.
Did you answer, Elijah?
Yes, I guess so.
All right, I've written it down. You guys look for your descriptions in the book and go away. You're free to go. All right, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. Rin, I'm back to you. Oh, bed bug infestation. Pay $20,000 to the bank. And let me read what it's fully about. Gotta get that. Research how much it costs to mitigate bed bugs and or termites. What are some precautions you can take to avoid infestations? All right, the next one.
Set the bed on fire.
Lydia. Become a magician. Collect $10,000 from each player.
Who should 10,000 to my
Technically, my children are married. I don't plan their birthday parties anymore.
who is it to?
Okay, research the types of party entertainers in your area. What is the average pay for a magician and how often do they work?
Who's the 10K to?
You get 100,000 and everyone else pays you 10,000.
Wait, me?
You.
Oh.
You're the
I thought that
one.
was for us.
You win, you win. All right, Taylor. Bartering boss. Give $10,000 to any player you choose.
I give to Kenna. Because I can't
Alright.
get any more in debt and she could use it.
But I'm your best friend.
You're also a butthead sometimes.
Kenna,
So
do
is
you
she.
accept that?
She's around
Yes,
more.
I
Okay, research the best items with which to barter during an economic downturn. Tyler has gone. All right, Kenna. Sell a vehicle, collect $40,000 from the bank.
Will my suffering never end?
Research the ways to sell a vehicle. Is it more cost effective to trade that vehicle in at a dealership or to sell it to a private party? All right, Mia. Let's see what we have for you. Game show contestant, collect $10,000 from the bank. What percentage of people try out for game shows versus those who get picked to be on the show? Do all contestants benefit from participating? Do they get paid if they don't win? How much does the host get paid? The Price is Right, honey. All right, Chase is gone, but let's draw for him anyway.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I looked at the action card thing on the list that you sent a while ago, and I saw that there's a Win America's Got Talent thing, and you get 100K from it. But don't they like win $1 million in the show?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't know, but I know that it depends on the game show, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I don't know specifically America's Got Talent. Does somebody else know?
You win $1 million if you win, but there's like 8 different rounds that you have to get through each time.
All right. Chase says happy birthday. Collect $10,000 from each player. So each of you will have to give Chase some money. Research how writers are paid royalties on popular songs. How long do patents last? How is this affected by piracy? All right, it's Elijah's turn. Let's see if we can find you the coin collecting. I'm excited for you. And it's not this, but funny, we just talked about it. Win America's Got Talent, collect $100,000 from the bank. All right, Lydia got it started. Research what happens to the winners of televised competitions. How did their show appearance impact their life? I already got Ryan. Samuel. What's it gonna be? Start a vacation rental cleaning service. Collect $120,000 from the bank. Research the availability of vacation rentals in your area and the average cleaning cost of the homes. What is the average length of time needed to clean a vacation rental? And what does this typically mean that the cleaner is paid per an hour? Last but not least, it's Maggie. What's gonna happen here? She's waiting for bad news. Can't get the thing in my finger. Sell your taxidermy. Collect $10,000 from the bank.
Is it a child?
Do you know what taxidermy is?
Yes.
All right, let's see what happens, what you're researching here.
She apparently does not.
Research how much it costs to have an animal mounted by a taxidermist. Why do people use them as decorations? Is there a market for those items outside of the person hunting them? Okay,
My family especially has a lot of like animals that they've killed over the years that they keep and like just give to other people.
sounds so violent, Taylor. Okay,
My uncle has a javelina skull because it hit his truck and he wanted revenge, so he killed it and then he brought it home.
Can I roll for a new house?
you sure can. That was Lydia, right?
Yep.
All right, let me, are you looking
All I want is a house. I
You
just
want the farmhouse?
it's only
Right, you get 6 choices here. Tiny house, studio apartment, basement, starter home, family house,
really
or
terrible.
mansion.
Yeah, I'm already in the family house. So I guess I can move to that.
Well, you're already in it, so.
Move to
Okay.
a different family house.
Does anyone else want to roll for housing? Samuel?
I still have
Three.
I also still have a career role that I can sell to someone.
Does anyone need a career role? All right. Houseboat, starter home, cozy cottage. I know that's nothing for you. The rules, the choices, it's so wrong. All right, Kenna, what can I do for you?
Can I give my house role to Samuel?
Samuel, do you accept the house rule? Okay. 4. Mansion, grandma's house, farmhouse, or a tree house?
I'm gonna move to the farmhouse and help Taylor's prophecy come true.
All
You're
right.
my favorite person.
All right. Finally got that elusive farmhouse one.
That's
Any
what
other?
I want.
I know. All of you want the farmhouse.
Lydia, I'll sell you my role. $10,000.
What'd you say?
I'll sell you my house role for this week.
For how much?
$10,000. That seems to be the minimum on this game. So
Well, the thing is, there's no guarantee of me getting it, and it wouldn't. I would perhaps lose a lot of money.
it's only 10,000.
So
Maggie paid $10,000 for a fish. So I mean, it just depends where you want to put your money.
It looks like she is rejecting your sales pitch.
Fine.
It's a bougie fish.
All right. Are there any other switcheroos that we need to do? Okay. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye.
I
You. Goodbye.